Hello, welcome. Today we're going to look at the main later life benefits, how to claim them, and why 4 out of 10 older people aren't claiming their benefit entitlement. Firstly, I said we, so I'd like to welcome Emma Lowndes and Lucy Martin.
Hello.
Hello.
Emma is a carer. She lives in Buckinghamshire and she works in business and marketing consultancy, so busy bee. Emma was struck by how hard it was to find and access the support that she and Marge needed, so she started blogging tips and links that help carers save money and time on modernmum.com. Lucy is the modernmum.com. Lucy is the adult carers service lead at Carers Bucks. Carers Bucks is the Buckinghamshire-based charity supporting unpaid carers. They offer information, advice and guidance, emotional support to people in a caring role from the age of 5 and upwards, and that was 5 years old.
Yeah, we support around about 1,000 young carers. So.
As young as 5,
yeah.
It's heartbreaking. Ladies, welcome. We've chosen to discuss later life benefits today. It accounts for about 56% of all of the welfare spending in Great Britain, 120 spending in Great Britain. £124 billion in 2019-2020, and because we're all passionate about people claiming the benefits that they're entitled to and getting the right information and advice. Something that I hear from families all the time is why are benefits so complicated? Why do they have to be so complicated? So here's the question, are they complicated? Is it too hard to claim them? Or does it have to be that complex a process to make sure that the right support goes to the right? Given that 4 out of 10 older people have unclaimed benefit entitlement, is there a problem with the system, or is it working for most? I just wanted your thoughts really. Emma, Lucy, what were your thoughts on why these benefits aren't being claimed?
I think a lot of the people just not understanding that there are certain things they can claim. In Buckinghamshire, there's a high proportion of what we call self-funders. And people who are self-funders may never have come into contact with the benefit system or social care system, and they may simply not be aware that there's something that they could claim. So I think that's one, and obviously an organisation like us, we're able to raise that awareness and point people in the right direction. I think sometimes there's also there is a stigma attached sometimes to claiming benefits. For some people that it conjures up a very definite idea for them, and they think perhaps this isn't something for us. You know, we've never been involved in the benefit system, so what will that mean? Will it mean someone coming to check up on us, or coming to delve into things? So I think it can be off-putting for people, definitely.
Yeah, I'd echo all of that. I'd also say that sometimes the person you're looking after will say, I don't need the charity, I'm quite self-sufficient, I've looked after myself all these years, so don't need it. And awareness is definitely a thing, and there's some urban myth as well. I remember reading about a benefit, attendance allowance to be specific, and my husband said, well, no, Marge won't be eligible for that. And,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, she's actually applied for it for my great aunt. He said, no, have a look, do it, kind of thing. Now, to paperwork and all the rest of it, there are a lot of questions in that question. What stops people? I think there's a lot of red tape. I think it's because the benefit system has grown the decades with bits being added on, and there's bits of paper, but there's new technology coming in, and I think it is very, very, very confusing. The Department of Work and Pensions does their best, but it's very, very confusing. Is it easy? I think you have to be incredibly dogged. About it. If I'm ever doing anything like this, I set aside a day to say, I'm not going to, try and plan a day where I know I'm not going to do anything. Get a cup of tea, get everything I think I'll need. Very often, I said, right, I need proper time to think about and do it all in one go. Don't try and do it bits because you'll forget what you put in and all that kind of thing.
Do you think sometimes it's as well? Do you think it's sometimes people they've never had the experience of claiming benefits, and so care need certainly comes along, and you have to deal with everything all at once, and you have absolutely no idea. It isn't that you
don't know the words.
You don't decide not to claim it. It's just you have no idea. You don't know what you don't know.
That's true. You don't know the vocabulary.
No, and
you don't.
The jargon as well.
Yeah, the jargon.
Definitely.
And why are they asking me these questions? They seem very personal questions. Why are they asking me the same questions over and over again, but in a different way?
And that's for people who've already come across it, though, Emma. I'm thinking more along the lines of people who have never engaged, haven't got the form, they haven't realised there's lots of questions. They haven't realised it's a 28-page form. They just don't know it's there.
Yeah.
And that's the lack of awareness. And for me, it's also around the change in your circumstances. The change in the circumstances creates, for me, the majority of the unclaimed benefit entitlement.
Yeah, it's usually some sort of emergency, a fall typically even sometimes. But I think it's the fact that it's like the dentist. You don't ever consciously think about, right, I must plan for that, prepare for that. You go when you have to.
Yeah.
This is, why would you think about it? It's one of those distress bracket purpose, quite literally sometimes in brackets. So we are when we come to this very ignorant, and it's a shame that GPs
they could do a lot more to raise awareness.
Who might come alongside us while we're with our older relative or whatever, might notice and think, hang on a second, this dynamic is changing in this family. Just a bit of signposting, a leaflet, or a referral to an organisation like Carers Bucks, a leaflet, or a referral to an organisation like Carers Bucks could really help these people.
Those kind of trigger points where it might be, for example, a bereavement, thinking much wider from the family dynamic, which is not just this person may well have been being cared for by a carer, but also their company, the social inclusion, and the little bit of extra, the extra support, not just physical and emotional, but financial. It's a bigger picture, isn't it? So a bereavement, not just managing the person that's been. The administration, I think, maybe is a conversation for another day. The administration and the reviews and the paperwork and the complexity and the appeals and the. That's a bit scary stuff.
I think it's overwhelming. I think as well, especially if you're new to caring, it's overwhelming. It's another thing that you need someone is asking you to think about at a time when your head is probably completely full of everything that's going on. And you mentioned, Emma, why are you asking me this question? Why are you asking the same question over and over? And the forms are very much like that. Yeah. So it's almost an exercise in understanding how to fill the forms in, which for a lot of people they're just not really, haven't really got the time to devote to that.
Certainly, and you've hit the nail on the head. Really, that's certainly absolutely of the disability benefits, because you're completing those forms yourself, and it's about your circumstances, and so it brings us into. What are these later life benefits? What are the benefits that we're talking about? And fundamentally, the benefit system is split into two. There are benefits that are not means tested. They're not interested in your financial wherewithal, your income, your savings, etc. And by and large, those are the disability related ones. And then there are some that are means tested, the ones that support a lower income or maybe not. That are means tested, the ones that support a lower income or maybe not, not quite the savings that we'd all like to have when we're older. And I think for us to talk about the different types of benefits, and when we talk about later life benefits, the biggest one then, if you like, is your state pension. Accounting for £99 billion, 80% of the later life benefit spend. The one thing I'd like to say here though is, remember, you still got to claim that. So you've still got to apply for it. And that sometimes just really does go unknown, that you've actually got to claim it. Most people
I didn't know that. So
I didn't think I knew that. I just assumed, I suppose.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Marge was drawing her pension already when she came to live with us, so I wasn't aware. Marge was drawing her pension already when she came to live with us, so I wasn't aware.
Yeah,
That's
no.
interesting.
I don't think I would have thought.
No, I've got
That
to.
actually.
You don't think I've got to claim
No.
this? No, it's not automatic, I'm afraid.
Oh, thanks, Nick.
Yeah, that's right. It's one that we've come across, and we've come across people who are older and are not getting their state pension for that reason. Come across people who are older and are not getting their state pension for that reason.
Gosh,
Yeah.
right. Okay.
I mean, they're living on something else, obviously.
Yes,
but it's an entitlement. And the other bugbear for state pension often is people don't consider that to be a benefit. They consider it an earned right.
Yes.
It's something you've paid who's fallen upon hard times. You've earned that. Which
can you remind us, Nicola, because I have a feeling you know,
Okay.
when can you start claiming your...
Depends on your age, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So,
is it different for men and women?
Yeah, well,
Or is it being
it's
unified
moving
now?
all the time.
Yeah, so what is it
Mine
now?
we were going to be 65, weren't we? And the
What is it
mine
now?
we were going to be 65, weren't we? And the women's was 60, and now we're all 68, and I'm going to be about 73. So there is a really, really easy pension age calculator on the internet. If you're on the internet, gov.uk, they've got some fantastic bits of information and some retirement age.
Okay, that sounds really useful.
Yeah, you literally just put your date of birth in. But so yes, and unfortunately for these poor ladies who are expecting to get their pension at 60 and then 63 and then 65 now,
not so much.
It's
No.
a shame. Yeah, lost their case, and it's a shame. Difference.
It's a scandal, frankly. I think it's outrageous.
Yeah, so pension unsurprisingly accounts for the vast majority of later life benefit spend. But the ones that I think we would like to sort of talk about would be the disability related benefits, wouldn't we, today?
Yeah.
And the disability related benefits certainly for people in later life are not means tested. They're not going to ask you about your money.
No, so please apply for them.
Please
do.
It's circumstantial. So, do you need help? Usually, do you need help from another person? But that's certainly for attendance allowance, which is for somebody who, when they're first claiming it, is over 65. You don't have to have had a medical diagnosis. It's about the help that you need, not what's wrong with you. You can live alone, never had anybody walk through your front door, and you may still be entitled to it. So please, it's about, can you show the need for help with your personal care or daily living tasks, things that you do every day, probably several times a day, or do you need supervision to keep you safe? Now, that doesn't mean somebody in the house with you all the time. It could be a pendant alarm. It doesn't mean somebody in the house with you all the time. It could be a pendant alarm. It could be, is there a risk of falling? That's the one that alerts me more often than not. And the disability benefits for people in later life, for older people, are attendance allowance. And you still would sometimes 65 before the Welfare Reform Act came in, you would still be getting it. So it doesn't mean that you automatically come off it. But remember, you can't get both. It's one or other. And the one that replaced disability living allowance is personal independence payment. That's the sort of payment is for somebody who's of a working age. So usually it's attendance allowance for someone who's older, or if they've carried disability living allowance through. But you can't get all three. You can only have one of those, and it's wholly determined by the age that you are when you first claim it. And there are lots of people will first claim it. And there are lots of people we will talk about in a little while who can help you with those forms, who can help you if you tell you.
Yeah, I'd like to add a bit that I'm sure you would, Lucy, like to add a bit to all of those. I'd also say that in a bit of kindness, I think, by disability living, by the Department of Work and Pensions on attendance allowance, is that if you have an older relative who's been given a terminal diagnosis, then you are fast-tracked onto the higher rate of paid immediately.
Yes, within 7 days.
Yeah, that's really, really important. And you can even claim without that individual who's received a diagnosis. You might even be managing how they hear that diagnosis. You can apply for it without them knowing. So someone else can apply on your behalf, which is really good, really kind. So that apply on your behalf, which is really good, really kind. So that's good. And the important thing with the attendance allowance is apply it as soon as possible. And it's backdated, isn't it?
It can be backdated. No.
Oh, no. Nicola's shaking her head. I thought it could.
So attendance allowance is payable from what they call the date of claim.
Okay. Yeah.
So the date that the Department of Works and Pensions knows about you. So the day you ring up and order the form, or the day that you go through the computer and go through the gateway, so they know you have expressed an interest, if you like.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not
it can take a few
backdated
weeks. That's a very good point.
Illness and conditions. So yes, but you're absolutely right.
I guess from my side, Nicola, it's usually when you're well down the road of needing it and you just don't know, and then and for a long time you've needed mobility aids, help getting up in the morning, health getting washed. Health time you've needed mobility aids, help getting up in the morning, health getting washed, health eating, health going to sleep, that kind of thing. So I beg your pardon. That's a very good. Thank you for keeping us honest.
No, because we just carry on in stoic silence. And we just deal with whatever we need to deal with on a daily basis. Need increases, we just deal with it, don't we? And so we forget what we're doing on a daily basis for maybe family members or for a loved one, spouse, whatever. And so you're absolutely right. You've usually already qualified that period before you think about this. You already qualified that period before you think about this. And
Miney Build, I think I'm sure Lucy's got some good examples she wants to share, but I would just say when you fill out the form, maybe get help to do it, because you shouldn't get very emotional about it. You should write only the facts. You shouldn't get very emotional about it. You should write only the facts and keep a copy, so that should anything get lost, should you be asked to do it again, need to take a social worker through it or anything in the future for a different purpose, then you've
yourself a file just so you've got it there, so you've got it, it's easy to access it, because when you do sort of begin on this journey, there are so many things to remember, so many different organisations that you'll come into contact with. It's just really useful just to have a file that's from you can get hold of, and if you do need to reproduce paperwork, it's there for you. I would say it's quite interesting when you think about when you apply for attendance allowance, and you probably are already doing all of these things. And I think one of the sticking points sometimes, one of the hurdles for attendance allowance for people is the nature of the form. And I think you're looking at, various different questions that are really focusing on what this person needs help with. So the kind of flip side of that is, what they need help with, i.e. what they can no longer really do for themselves. And so it can be quite a hard thing to fill in. It's a long form, it's 28, 29 pages long. And you're focusing on what the person can no longer do, what they now need help to do, and what in many, many cases they will always need help to do. So it can be quite a kind of, by the time you've finished it, and there are various ways of filling it in. You can get a hard copy, so you can, if you prefer to write a little bit, leave it, come back to it, or you can do it online. So there are various ways of filling it in, but the main thing is that you are focusing on these things, these areas where somebody needs help, and I think that's probably sometimes a bit of a barrier for people as well.
It is rather gloomy.
It is. It's really it is. And that's why you need to be objective as well. You need to not get too emotional when you're filling it in, because it is a series of questions that you just need to focus on that, very factual, and that's probably the best way that we would advise approaching it.
I think sometimes it doesn't it, because you complete the form, explain. It doesn't take into account all the positive things in your life, your good relationships, all the things that you can do. You don't get awarded the benefit for that. So just fill it in and then totally just put it to the side.
Fill it in, do it, it's done then.
Don't dwell. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Why have we spent a bit of time on these disability related benefit forms? And I think that's partly because there's a lot of people that don't claim them and they really should. Please think about it at least. Secondly, because they can lead to other benefit entitlements. We have the means tested benefit entitlement. Some kinds, the non-means tested, the disability ones, can passport you to other benefits. Bigger benefits that might help you pay your rent, might cover the cost of your council tax, might give you a little bit of extra in the bank by way of pension credit as a means tested top up, and a bit of extra in the bank by way of pension credit as a means tested top up, an income top up for somebody who's got a lower income. Just because you've got savings doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to be able to claim those things. If you get a disability benefit, it might mean that you're entitled to more. And so we go that you're entitled to more. And so we go back to the change in circumstances. That's why I think benefit entitlements missed. Your circumstances have changed. For example, you filled in this big benefit form, you've been awarded this disability benefit. Now let's look again at your means tested entitlement, because that could well have some more money coming to the pot. So have another think. The £4 billion that people who are older people who leave unclaimed, the vast majority of it comes from pension credit. Pension credit is the means tested benefit for older people. The Department of Works and Pensions, Emma, benefit for older people. The Department of Works and Pensions, Emma said this earlier, quite right. They've worked really hard trying to raise awareness. But frankly, ladies, we've had this benefit for 16 years. Why are we still trying to raise awareness around it? It's because the circumstances, just because you weren't entitled 6 months ago doesn't mean you're not now. And I think that's really the main reason for it.
So what triggers availability? Can you summarise it?
So
simply?
for pension credit, for example, one good example might be that and they may not have entitlement to pension credit because they're considered as a couple. You know, what's yours is yours and what's mine's mine too. Or what's yours is mine and what's mine's mine too, I should say, as I said, tell my husband. But if, say, for example, one of those partners moves into long-term care, then from the benefits to long-term care, then from the benefits, from the Department of Work and Pensions benefit perspective, they are then assessed as two single people.
Right.
So, say, for example, the husband, there's a need for the male partner to move into a care home. Female partners, and it isn't to say that it's more often the ladies that have a lower income than the gentleman. Might be that you're coming across a lady that's got a married woman's pension, so a lower pension, and so she may well have pension credit entitlement in her own right now because she's living at home on her own. And it might help her stay in the house that she's lived in for the last 60 years and doesn't want to leave.
That's such a good point. There must be so many people that are completely not aware of that.
I
wasn't.
So,
gosh,
yes.
amazing.
That's where the benefit, thing about circumstances changing, that's where this means tested benefit, that's where it lays, where the unclaimed benefit lays. Is the circumstances have changed and you don't think, oh well, I better check my pension credit entitlement. It's the last thing on your mind, isn't it, when you live nearest and dearest moving into care home?
No.
So
we need to be getting that message across, don't we?
That's a really, really common one, is when a partner moves into care, we'd always do a full benefit check on both partners. And sometimes, you know, I can't think why, but it's more often the gentlemen that want to look after the ladies. And if the gentleman, knowing that his wife or his partner can stay at home and have her own income, even if it's a benefit topped up income, she can survive on that. And therefore it helps you then look at a more long-term care planning for either and or both, actually. So really important. And having savings doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to get that. So please don't dismiss it because you've got a few quid in the bank. And don't spend the few quid in the bank to give yourself entitlement, because that won't wash either. But sensibly, joking aside, give it some thought. There's a pension credit calculator online. There are agencies that can help you with a benefit check. There are charities that can help you with that. Websites, blogs, more that can signpost you, carers bucks that can provide information from the website and support for carers. From the care navigator's perspective, we can help with the forms, we can help with challenging benefit decisions. There is help out there. The Department of Works and Pensions may be able to give you a bit of support if you're housebound.
They've done a couple of home visits for some of our carers who've not been able to fill the forms in themselves, not been able to get out to access the support. In certain circumstances, they will do the home visit, and it's worked out really well.
That's good.
So
they can. Yes, they can. I mean, I don't know if you think, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of, kind of going back to the attendance allowance and self-funders who perhaps might not be aware that they're entitled to claim the attendance allowance. I can think of one particular gentleman who was caring for his wife, is caring for his wife. She has dementia. And they're self-funders, so his wife goes above the threshold for having care paid for, and they were just kind of managing along, fairly well. But he was starting to get very, very tired. He was starting to get very, very tired, very overwhelmed, and he came into contact with us at Carers Bucks, and we were able to, point him into getting, perhaps he might be able to claim the attendance allowance for his wife, which he went on to do. He filled the form out, the lower rate attendance allowance, which was great. But moving on to other benefits that you may then be entitled to, because she had an official diagnosis of dementia and was then getting the attendance allowance, they were also able to claim a 25% discount on their council tax, and that all a significant amount per week.
Yes.
And the point really of the tale is that he used that money then to pay towards a day centre one day a week for his wife, which has made a tremendous difference. And it's interesting because I've been asked before, or challenged before by other professionals about funder need to claim these, why not just use the money? And I think that shows a real kind of lack of awareness of the situation that many carers are in. So self-funders or not self-funders, you are often on a kind of, day-to-day firefighting, just getting through what you need to get through on that day. You don't have just getting through what you need to get through on that day. You don't have sometimes the headspace to think, let's allocate a certain amount of money here, and I could use it for this, and that would help me and the person I'm caring for. But actually to have that very tangible amount from the attendance allowance and the council tax, and to be able to use that for a day, kind of respite one day a week, which is good for both him and for his wife. So it's really important. I sound like a broken record sometimes. Please, attendance allowance, consider it, apply for it, contact us or yourself, or look at Morden Mum. Just make sure that you are, look at Morden Mum. Just make sure that you are getting what you are entitled to.
Absolutely. Can I just pick up on two things there? So Lucy's mentioned self-funders, and I'm mindful that we use a lot of jargon in our world, in the social care world. Self-funders essentially is sort of a reference back to, with the local authority or the council, social services, adult social care, whatever you want to call it, it's the same thing. Would you have to pay for that care yourself? And now that's another topic actually, and one that we will cover in another podcast. But if you did right, and Lucy rightly mentioned, above a certain level, that is a means tested system. So yes, somebody who may be self-funding. And the other thing is the second benefit, the apart from pension credit, the one that's also underclaimed is council tax benefit, council tax exemption. So council tax benefit is always means tested, but in order to support people who maybe have some means, They make the person or the property exempt. So if you have a severe mental health issue, it might be that the person themselves would be exempt.
Is one of those.
So if you're living with dementia, for example, it's definitely worth thinking about. If you're moving into long-term, and if you have a physical disability that means you need a wheelchair indoors, or you need a room of your own for your own treatment, you would get, you'd have a reduction in the band of council tax that your house is. Or if, for example, you're moving into long-term care, the house is empty, the property itself then would be exempt. So for family members, just to be aware, don't keep paying council tax if you've got an empty property. It doesn't mean empty of furniture, it means if your loved one's moved into care. It doesn't mean empty of furniture, it means if your loved one's moved into care. So give that some thoughts, not always means tested. If you need any help to complete disability claim forms, obviously there are charities like Carers Bucks, Age UK, Citizens Advice. They may have volunteers that would be able to help you fill those in. Independent advice providers like Care Navigators would also be able to do that, have some useful information on the website, but their services are usually chargeable, they're not free of charge. Anything either of you ladies would like to add before we kind of say thank you very much? Please.
I want to say, Nicola, I thought I'd read around, I thought I knew a lot, but I will be updating a couple of pages on More Than Mum for sure, so thank you for that. So don't worry, by the time this is broadcast, More Than Mum will be finessed by Nicola. But the other thing is every little helps. I manage under power of attorney. There's help how to write a power of attorney on More Than Mum, and I also write about other ways of other benefits that are not necessarily government provided, but there are other benefits that you might be eligible for too. So think things like making sure that winter fuel payment is being triggered. You might get VAT relief on certain products if you have disability and you're the main user. Blue badge for getting around, public transport, TV licence, as we know, will not until then. But also, if you live in the same house as someone over 75, you can claim for the last, if they've lived with you for a long time, you can claim for the TV licence that you've been paying for up to 3 or 4 years, which we did.
Can
we
you?
didn't realise that. Yeah,
Oh,
you didn't
no,
I didn't know
well,
that.
You see, it's
sharing of information.
You see, it's
sharing of information.
confusing. We've been paying for 7 years. Well, not as been, we managed to get 3 or 4 years. Fuel costs, join oil bulk buying schemes. Make sure that the household that the elder is living in is benefiting. You're doing your switching and you're looking at bulk
costs. If you've got excessive utility bills, you may well be able to get a reduction on that. If you're a vulnerable adult, there are lots of ongoing benefits.
But they're in there.
They're unknown, aren't they?
Yeah, I know Severn Trent Water do, and if you need to do a lot of laundry. Water do, and if you need to do a lot of laundry, a lot of washing, then you can get relief. But I think you need to be claiming benefits.
If you need to be warm, if you need to keep warm because of a disability or benefit, it might come into this kind of. They're discretionary pots, I would say, but certainly worth thinking.
I've got a finance section, but sometimes, and for example, should you need continence products, if your local authority provides them free of charge, that saves £80 a month. Now that that makes a big difference.
It does. It's huge.
It's the difference between paying for domiciliary care, not paying for domiciliary care, or they still provide a phone and they don't use the phone, so why not just redirecting mail so you're not getting people preying on vulnerable people.
And your preference systems, so not getting the nuisance calls. I know we're moving away from benefits, but it's just endless, isn't it?
It is. I mean, that's a lot of stuff though. So you start with most important.
Just one at a
start
time.
with attendance. Start with most important.
Just one at a
start
time.
with attendance allowance. Do maybe one a week or one a month or something. But start with the one with the highest return. So I would definitely always start with attendance allowance and power of attorney if circumstances. Well, we can all deal with the power. We all need a power of attorney.
Absolutely. We can dictate.
We all need a power of attorney.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely. We'll cover We'll certainly cover sort of legal capacity, powers of attorney, deputyships, etc. We're doing a whole podcast on that, I think. Yeah, because it's so important, really fundamentally important, isn't it? Wow, ladies, thank you so much. Thank you to Emma.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
And thank you for listening. I hope that's helped. It's helped you to think about some of the later life benefits and how to go about claiming them and the support that might be available. And look out for the other podcasts. We're going to do one on continuing healthcare funding, and then how to pay for it, as well as powers of attorney, legal capacity. So thanks very much.
Sounds
Thank
good.
Great.
you. Yeah.
Thank you.